Hey, shout out to everybody. Let's get to some of this news. Shout out to Devori Darkins. Before I get started, everybody out there, man, live your life. You know what I mean? Don't let these jobs try to control you. You know what I mean? Like, live your life, you know. And not to give like a big speech before like I get into some of these topics, but after going to Europe, you know, the Netherlands, and it's so different than American life, you know. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with American life. Shout out to everybody in America, thug life, you know. But it's just when you leave this country and you go and you visit other places in other areas, you will see like this work culture that we have in America is literally insane. This is insane. Like, people will like, yeah, they will message you like out of work, about work. Like, if I'm not at work, do not message me. Like at all. Unless I'm at work, do not message me, bro. You know what I mean? So this work culture is literally getting insane, bro. And I'm kind of losing my cool with it. Shout out to everybody. I see everybody in the chat. Shout out to Froggy Megsy. I see you. Fob Deep, I see you in here. He said, wait a minute. Kenneth Cole, shout out to you. Appreciate you. We about to get into some of this news. So what I'm hearing is that Donald Trump is getting the federal government involved in trying to help police Washington, D.C. There's been a lot of muggings, a lot of crime going on, you know, allegedly, I will say, because they're saying some people are showing on Twitter, which Twitter is not a good source, right, that crime is actually going down in D.C. But some people are reporting that they feel like it's dangerous in D.C., you know, and Trump is trying to do a crackdown on that. And I will say, if you're the president of the United States, especially like where you, like, you know, the Capitol building, all of that stuff is, you got to make sure that is as safe as possible. A lot of people visit, you know, and they want to make sure, like, when they come to the area that they're not going to be mugged, they're not going to be robbed. You know what I mean? People are not going to be unalived and all of that. You know what I mean? So, you know, he wants to make it safer. We'll see what he ends up doing. There is a lot of pushback. A lot of Democrats feel like the federal government should not be getting involved with law enforcement that's happening in Washington, D.C. So I'm leaving it to y'all, you know, asking y'all, what y'all think in the comment section below. Do you feel like Trump is on the right path by trying to step in and do something about it? Karoline Leavitt, I think she ended up saying something about it as well. We will end up getting to that. But that's the news for today. Let's listen to what Devori Darkins got to say about a lot of different things. You know, he's talking about Adam Schiff, a lot of things, classified files being leaked, intel. So let's listen to some of this.
In today's video, we have a bombshell update from the FBI. They just declassified documents proving Adam Schiff leaked classified information. Secondly, MSNBC is continuing to struggle over President Trump federalizing D.C. And Nancy Pelosi gets humiliated after she lies about January 6th. And all of these stories will show you what both sides are saying and give you the bottom line.
Even though we know Devori Darkins is Republican. I like how the Republican commentators say, we're going to give you both sides, knowing they're going to give you the right-wing side of everything and roll with that. I'm Republican too, so it is what it is. Let's listen to this.
This is about Trump wanting to do a power grab. This is about Trump's obsession with the military. You can pretend it's about. You think it's because Trump cares about crime in D.C. Really? Because I remember Donald Trump on January the 6th, 2021, not getting
Mehdi, oh come on, now for January 6th. Okay, Mehdi, no, Mehdi, come on,
Let me finish my point. This is a short segment.
I know you said that. 150 police officers got hurt.
Hold on. You gave Bill O'Reilly a lot of time. Let me give an answer. I'm here for much shorter time. Let me speak. On January 6, 2021, you may want to move on for it. We all watched police officers in D.C. being attacked by a Trump-supporting mob, 150 injured, 600 people
convicted. Mehdi, you're going to sit here, we know the statistics of January 6th. Mehdi, you're going to sit here, Mehdi, you're going to sit here and say, if Trump...
Yo, bro.
There's cancer. The January 6th was terrible. Okay, the fact of the matter is you can't have an argument. You can't have an argument about what's happening on the streets.
Bro, it doesn't matter. Like, people are wearing suits and acting like kids. This is hilarious, bro.
D.C. without going back to January 6th.
Because it's about
you won't talk about actually the crime.
Trump leading. The leaders.
No, it's not. It's about how to have people be safe.
clearly that's going nowhere because that is the argument surrounding what President Trump has decided to do, which was yesterday, federalize D.C. in an effort to crack down on crime. Part of that is deploying the National Guard troops. Now, the left is crying about this because they say he failed to do it on January 6th. So what we're going to do is use ground news to dive into that and see what the truth really is. Now, what's fascinating...
Ooh, I like that he's doing that, using ground news to do that. Shout out to everybody hitting the hearts. I see y'all in here.
Is as soon as President Trump announced this, Nancy Pelosi came out and criticized the president. Well, she made a mistake because she got exposed by the former ex-Capitol Police Chief in D.C. Now, if you guys want to follow along, please go to ground.news/Devori. We love using this tool to see the full picture so we can think for...
Looks like Devori got a sponsorship. Shout out to Devori.
Where was the National Guard? Where was the National Guard on January 6th?
Oh, come on. You can't do... No. This is silly. This is absolutely silly, Mehdi. You can't do this. No, because it has nothing to do with what's happening or what the arguments are right now. Okay? And you can't... No, it has nothing to do with it.
Crime matters in D.C. The victims of crime matter in D.C. What about the cops in D.C.?
The only person who died on January 6th was a Trump supporter, and you can't talk about what's happening on the streets right now.
Let me know when you want me to speak.
No, you can't talk about anything. You cannot talk about this without talking about January 6th or anything else. You won't have an argument on the merits. Mehdi, thank you as always. We first wrote about this in War Notes.
Yeah, so he had to cut it short because he's arguing with someone who's an idiot or a fool. And if you're doing that, you look like one too. I believe that is the same. And guys, I'm showing you guys ground news regarding this story because this is called blind spot. We all are victims of our own blind spots. And in the media, they exist. That means only one side wants to talk about how Nancy Pelosi was really at fault for why National Guard troops were not deployed during January 6th. But only right-leaning sources will talk about it. Left-leaning sources, they don't want to give it any energy. Doesn't that tell you what's really going on here? The whole purpose is for us to think for ourselves. That's why I don't spend any time trying to convince anyone of anything, especially if they don't want to listen. That's an automatic argument. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you can download the mobile app.
Breach the inaugural stuff
There's stuff we should call the Capitol. What?
should we call the Capitol Police? I mean the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
There's not a question of how they have it. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepared for more.
Okay, so that was a clip of her during January 6th.
Because she says Donald Trump delayed deployment. It says Donald Trump delayed deploying the National Guard on January 6th when our capital was under violent attack and lives were at stake. Now he's activating the D.C. Guard to distract from the incompetent mishandling of tariffs, healthcare, education, and immigration, just to name a few blunders. Nancy Pelosi is a psycho. Like, what is she talking about? Like, how mishandling of tariffs? Like, how is he having a mishandling of tariffs? Like, I don't understand what she's talking about. Healthcare. She could talk about maybe the Medicaid cuts. She could be talking about that. Education and immigration. Immigration, I feel like Donald Trump has done a very good job with immigration. Education, I am a proponent of giving the power back to the states. That's me, but everybody's different. Y'all tell me what y'all think about education. So, but I'm very interested in when is she going to be looked at of her investment trading. I mean, people aren't really looking at that with her. I think that people need to take a look into her a little bit about that. Why is her trades always panning out? Nancy Pelosi, I feel like, it's a lot of things I want to say about her that I can't really say on this platform. But Nancy Pelosi is something else. If y'all can't hit the likes in the chat, appreciate it.
Being recorded saying that it was her fault. The National Guard troops should have been there. She should have made sure it was done. And I don't know how you dispute that. But hey, she still decided to post this yesterday. Donald Trump delayed deploying the National Guard on January 6th when our capital was under a violent attack and lives were at stake. Now he's activating the D.C. Guard to distract from his incompetent mishandling of tariffs, healthcare, education, and immigration, just to name a few blunders. Well, unfortunately for her, as we talked about, the former D.C. police chief said this, Ma'am, it's long past time to be honest with the American people. On January 3rd, I requested the National Guard assistance, but your sergeant at arms denied it. Under federal law, I was prohibited from calling them in without specific approval. That same day.
Oh, ma'am, it is long past time to be honest with the American people. On January 3rd, I requested National Guard assistance, but your sergeant at arms denied it. Ooh. Under federal law, 2 USC S 1970, I was prohibited by calling them in without specific approval. That same day, Carol Corbin at the Pentagon offered National Guard support, but I was forced to decline because I lacked the legal authority. Ooh. On January 6th, while the Capitol was under attack and despite my repeated calls, your sergeant at arms again denied my urgent request for over 70 agonizing minutes, running it up the chain for your approval. So for 70 minutes, like, he was trying to get approval and he couldn't get approval. I'm glad you said that, Chief. When I needed assistance, I was denied. Yet when it suited you, you ordered fencing topping with concertina wire and surrounded the Capitol with thousands of armed National Guard troops. Interesting.
Carol Corbin at the Pentagon offered National Guard support, but I was forced to decline because I lacked the legal authority. On January 6th, while the Capitol was under attack, and despite my repeated calls, the Sergeant at Arms again denied my urgent request for over 70 agonizing minutes, running it up the chain for your approval. When I needed assistance, it was denied.
I cannot tell you the number of times someone has asked me, where were you? Where was the National Guard? Or how can you call yourselves Capitol Guardians? There's no easy response to those questions, and the truth is, we were there, and we were ready. We just weren't authorized to respond, and that is difficult to explain.
All right, so that was the Command Sergeant Major at the time who was in charge of the D.C. National Guard. And yes, these clips are kind of throwbacks, and we're kind of talking about the past here. But the whole point to start off this story is to continue to expose the lies, by the way, to think for ourselves, don't eat up the propaganda, which is number 3. And number 4, for the people who maybe you don't support Trump as much, right? Maybe you're not a Trump supporter, and maybe you believe these type of lies that come from people like Nancy Pelosi. I just laid it all out for you. They are willing to lie up and down in order to undermine the President of the United States. And the only people who truly get hurt in the process are American citizens. All right, and now we move to our next story, which is truly a bombshell. So FBI Director Kash Patel has declassified documents proving that Adam Schiff purposely leaked classified information.
Adam Schiff, is this true, Thug Life? Is this true, Adam Schiff? If so, we got a problem here. What is going on with Rosie O'Donnell? Rosie O'Donnell is tripping. In other news, let's see what Rosie O'Donnell's saying before we get back to this Adam Schiff and this DC stuff.
Now it is time for lefties losing it. Donald Trump has deployed the National Guard to Washington, D.C. after announcing a crackdown on crime and homelessness. But be careful, do not even mention it to Democrat Representative Maxine Waters. She's calling it a civil war.
Words mean nothing. Actions mean everything. Watch this. Watch it very closely. Ask a lot of questions. Focus those cameras on everything that's going on, because this president is trying to lead us into what could be called a civil war.
Yeah, clearly Maxine Waters' wig is really starting to have an impact on her brain.
Judah Fetcher said America deserves the truth. Release the files.
Meanwhile, Democrat strategist Jim Kessler had a peculiar take.
If people are afraid to come to D.C., go to Disney.
Froggy says so many Democrats in here.
Well, get fat, eat French fries. I don't care. I've lived here 37 years. I am not afraid.
What? Hey, don't worry about crime. Nothing to see here. Go to Disney, get fat. That's going to solve all the problems. Good one, Jim. And now to the Washington, D.C. protests. Or should I say funeral procession? D.C. is our home.
Lefties losing at D.C. protest.
Is that not the most tragic and dull-looking protest you have ever seen? DC is our home, you can't have it, Trump. I mean, all of this just to stop the crime cleanup. It's so tragic, the organisers don't even know what the heck they're trying to say.
When we say we won't go, that means we're not going to those mass incarceration, into their prisons and enslavement. We won't go into their ICE, what do you call his beautiful.
What did she say, gang? Oh man, if my audio's messed up, you gotta go ahead and restart. You know what I mean? Refresh. Everything's good on my end.
Sinners that he got, we won't go to where alligators live. Hell no, we won't go.
Yeah, you can really see that moment tick over, can't you, in her head? She's trying her hardest. She's trying her hardest, but she's got absolutely no clue whatsoever what she's on about. In fact, it is so bad, the protesters even turned on each other.
Leave here! Leave here! Leave here! Leave here! Leave
I mean, what sort of a protest was this? They tried to cobble it together at the last minute. And the irony of them protesting about crime when they start fighting each other. I mean, you can't make this stuff up with the left lunatics, grade A lefties. And now have a listen to some of the lefty Washington D.C. meltdowns.
Because he hates the sight of homeless people. They're gone. I don't know where he's going to move them. I assume into camps, and they're going to end up on farms somewhere doing hard labor for people.
It's not about protecting the people anymore. Now it's about forcing the law on people.
It is a president, quote, undermining and negating power that a city already has in play to navigate its own city local population. It's not democratic.
This miserable
Oh man, yeah, Froggy Megsy. Sometimes, sometimes we gotta have haters in here. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with that.
has never experienced life without a golden spoon up, and you're sitting there acting like he's one of us. Let me learn you something here, Cletus. You are now, and always will be, closer to homeless than you ever will be to Trump. You know, he could lose 99% of his wealth, and that would still be true. So you for the fact that you're more than willing to demonize the homeless community as being the cause of crime in Washington, D.C.
I've said it a few times now. We need to start burning. There needs to be...
What? Breaking news, DC curfew. He said, I said it, you need to start burning stuff. Like, what in the world? What is this dude talking about? And you know what's interesting about TikTok? They will leave stuff like that up. But then if you make a comment about anything, they're removing your comments and all of that. But anything that is super negative on America, they have no problems with it. TikTok is funny, bro.
Be a consequence.
TikTok be like sneak this in America. They be promoting anti-America TikToks. They're sneaky, bro.
We can't just let fascism take over. We can't let Orange Mustache Man, Cinnamon Hitler, we can't let him just do whatever he wants.
Orange Mustache Man, while this guy's sipping on his latte.
No, not the tolerant left inciting violence again. No way, no way. And look, over at MSNBC, they too are having a freak out, claiming President Trump sending in the National Guard to address crime is, you guessed it, racist.
They're trying to hold my temper. We have to understand this, Chris, within the context of Donald Trump's racial politics and within the context of his effort to get Epstein off the front pages.
Yes, that old chestnut. They just love it. They love the racist line, don't they? Everything is just so racist with the left. Meanwhile, the crime rate is worse in DC than many parts of the world, but Dana Bash over at CNN is coming up with all sorts of excuses.
I should note that the most violent moment in recent history in D.C. was January 6th. And it was an attack on the United States Capitol by a lot.
Charlotte Cunningham said they're all back crap crazy. Dustin said crazy. Dustin said, yeah, these people are going crazy, or actually these individuals have always been crazy. That is why these particular cities are going bad, are gone rogue. Yeah.
A lot of people who were doing it in the name of Donald Trump, and it included...
Hey, what are y'all talking about Epstein? I made videos talking about the whole Epstein thing. I want the files, the documents released.
The people who were...
No, y'all not talking about me. I'm kind of like Candace Owens with the whole MAGA movement in a sense. Like, you know, like I would rather Trump be president than Kamala Harris. But at the same time, I don't go off of blind faith. You know what I mean? Like I do like have my criticisms and critiques with the administration. So, I mean, like, miss me with that.
For her included members of law enforcement.
Well, this is just truly fanatical propaganda by a delusional woman, because Trump supporters actually died that day. She really is a useless liar. Now, a former TV host and alleged interior designer Jennifer Welsh seems to have completely, absolutely lost her marbles. She's gone on an unhinged rant suggesting Trump voters should not be allowed at Mexican or Chinese restaurants.
Wow.
I've had it with...
Oh, somebody sent me this.
White people that triple trumped, that have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant.
Somebody said, who cares what an Australian thinks about America? This is Sky News Australia. Shout out to them. They're actually, they are conservative leaning, you know, so they do support the conservatives.
An Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel. When the felon...
Yo, she funny, bro.
Is the teeny weeny mushroom piece of Cankle's McTaco at the top of the ticket. I have had it from top to bottom. White people that triple Trump should be banned, boycotted from enjoying the best thing that America has to offer, which is multiculturalism.
Whoa, okay. Well, let's just unpack that psycho woman's rant. Firstly, legal immigrants.
Hey, Froggy Megsy, if you still in here, you know, we got somebody, gotta go.
Are not illegal immigrants, funnily enough. Secondly, 48% of Latinos and about 40% of Asians.
And that's what they do. They get mad. They want to do the racial slur thing. Like they, it's insane.
Voted for Donald Trump last year. So old Jenny's bizarre comments are just disparaging against migrants who've actually come to the country legally and worked hard. And thirdly, as for Cracker Barrel, she's clearly never been. Jennifer, Jenny, Jen, whoever you are, you really are the perfect example of a white, unhinged, Jenny's bizarre liberal woman. You poor thing. Now, over in Nova Scotia, they seem to be doing a real-life climate lockdown experiment. I hope you don't like hiking, fishing, or being outdoors in general, because here is the Premier, Tim Houston.
Effective 4 p.m. today, we're telling Nova Scotians, stay out of the woods. We are restricting travel and activities that really aren't necessary for most of us.
Yeah, exactly. Euro World said always about race, never logic. Yeah, that's what they do. It's like when the Democrats can't, and you know, and on my channel, like I allow Democrats to say what they want to say. Like I don't really care. Like Democrats or Republicans, you say what you want to say. But when Democrats start losing arguments, they either go towards, you're trying to stifle my free speech, and it's like, dude, I'm letting you talk. You know, they freak out, or they use ad hominem attacks, or they go racial. Like they always do it. Democrats, they get super emotional, and that's the first thing that they do. You know, and it becomes silly after a while.
Camping, fishing, and the use of vehicles in the woods are not permitted. Trail systems through woods are off limits. Camping is allowed, but only in official campgrounds.
Look, don't leave home. Just stay at home, I think. Just stay where you are. Don't go outside. It is practically COVID 2.0, sealing Canadians off from the world. Welcome to 2025 authoritarianism. And now to Nancy Pelosi, who seems to have found herself a
you
new
know what?
job.
People talking about the Epstein files. Where were the Epstein files when Joe Biden was president? Why didn't they do anything about that? Why didn't they say anything about the Epstein files? Why has it? Why was Obama at the why was he kicking it with Epstein? Can somebody tell me that? Like, a lot of y'all seem to forget that for some reason. I don't know why y'all forget that. Like, I mean, y'all forget that Joe Biden was president, Kamala Harris was the vice president, and they did nothing about that. Everybody was so concerned about Diddy, but the Epstein files, nobody cared about it. Y'all forget that. Like, y'all forget that Joe Biden was actually president, I guess. You know why you forget that? Because he was one of the most non-present presidents we've ever had. Joe Biden was the type of president when there is pressure out that he's going to do an interview or he's going to have an open administration. That wasn't Joe Biden's methodology of how he was running his presidency. He stayed gone, or hidden. A lot of his executive orders, there's a rumor, and I'm not saying it's true or not, but the Trump administration was saying that a lot of executive orders were signed with an auto pen. So Biden probably didn't know what was going on through most of the presidency. But y'all still, you kind of don't want to, admit that. He couldn't even walk in sand, could barely walk up a flight of steps, didn't know what was going on, clearly had medical issues. They found out he got cancer after he's not president. You don't think that they could find precursors for cancer when he was president? He had the best medical team available. But y'all just, it's just, he's in outstanding health. He can't remember where he is. He falling asleep in Africa, don't know what's going on. They just forget all of that. And they forget that he was president. This is one thing that the Democrats do. They forget that Joe Biden was actually president. They forget that he had Dr. Fauci that he pardoned, that had us all getting that jab. They forget about all of that. They forget about Joe Biden talking about he's not going to pardon Hunter Biden, but then he pardoned him. Y'all forget about that. And Hunter Biden's laptop is like it's like a nightmare. Like, Epstein is sick, but did you see Hunter's laptop contents that's blasted all over Twitter? That's pretty sick. People tend to forget about all of that. Or Joe Biden giving Liz Cheney a pardon, a war hawk, a pardon. Like, what? Like, people forget a lot of things when it comes to Joe Biden, which I think is very interesting.
This time, helping kids transition.
Well, that is something that I'm working for at the national level, and we have...
comments are just...
how can I say, are hoping that we can have gender affirming here for our trans kids.
Well, as I just mentioned, Donald Trump has announced a historic takeover of Washington, D.C., deploying about 800 white troops to bolster policing. He says it's part of a plan to rescue America's capital city from crime and homelessness. Here is what he said.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back.
US Attorney General Pam Bondi said that the Trump administration would use every power at their disposal to restore law and order.
Let me be crystal clear. Crime in D.C. is ending and ending today. We are going to use every power we have to fight criminals here. President, thank you for caring about our capital. No more crime rampant in our beautiful capital.
Joining me now for more on this is comedian and host of Prime Time with Alex Stein on Blaze TV, Alex Stein himself. Alex, good to catch up. Thanks for joining me. Is this a good move, and can the administration actually pull it off?
Well, it is going to be a tough challenge when it comes to, getting rid of all the crime in D.C. because they have a unique situation where it is just, there's basically no middle class. It's the ultra wealthy and basically people that are homeless. And so it's created this kind of ecosystem where people need drugs in that area. So they come from Baltimore, they come from Virginia, they come from West Virginia, they come from all areas to go and commit crime in Washington, D.C. because it's one of the biggest tourist spots in the world. And there's a lot of affluent people, so there's a lot of targets. So it is going to be a tough task to stop criminals from committing crime, basically an impossible task. But anything is better than the current situation that is going on in D.C. It is truly a dangerous place, and I'm not just being hyperbolic when I say that.
Oh, look, no, you raise a good point. And I've got to say, Alex, that the lefties, they're in a complete spin over this. They're having a meltdown, saying it's part of a civil war. But have they actually looked at the crime situation? It's so bad, you can't even wear a backpack into the supermarket anymore under the rules. Have a look.
Starting today at 12 giant grocery stores in D.C. and Maryland, if you have a bag over 14 inches, you cannot take it inside the store. So what does that look like? Here's a backpack, 14 inches. This one can't go in. Also, if you're under 18 years old, you cannot go into the store after 6 p.m. without an adult.
Alex, yet the left will tell you that this is undemocratic.
I see them constantly arguing. During COVID, every person on the left wanted to wear a mask, but now in D.C., which is obviously a traditionally liberal place, now you can't go into a store wearing a mask because they think you're going to rob the place. So maybe that's why they're mad, because they can't wear their COVID masks around. So this is a serious problem. That's why you can't take a big backpack into a store, because people are stuffing it with junk and, running out of the store. So I think the left are these crazy, loony leftists that actually are cheering for crime, that don't want Donald Trump to make it safer. They've really lost the plot, and I don't think they are really in tune with the struggles of other Americans that we go through every day.
What y'all think about that?
Russia.
Hold on, this is what I want to do real quick. Hold on. I don't want to play it from here. I want to play it from here. Hold on. Because I want to hear what she got to say about this. Fast forward.
Strong preference will always be for peace and partnership, whenever those outcomes can possibly be achieved. There is no leader in the world right now who has been more committed to preventing wars or ending them than President Donald Trump. Just look at what took place here at the White House last Friday, when President Trump hosted the Azerbaijani president and Armenian prime minister and got the two leaders to sign a historic joint declaration for peace, ending a decade.
And we just got a person named Igor K, superfan in here, said, moved out of D.C. years ago, D.C. sucks. Some people have been complaining about a lot of crime going on in D.C. So what do y'all think? Y'all for Trump stepping in and doing something about it, or are you against it?
Long conflict that disrupted the region and claimed countless lives. In other news, we continue to see positive economic reports across the board. Today's CPI report revealed that inflation beat market expectations once again, and inflation remains stable. Overall, inflation has run at a 1.9 average annual pace in President Trump's first 6 months in office. Prices for everyday goods continue to decline. Energy prices.
All right, so we got Mafioso with a $20 donation. Shout out to him. He said, we have Black American logical common sense thinkers like Paperboy. Then we have the emotional, it's the white man's fault, want to be oppressed, ignorant. He said, there is no pleasing these people. Channel like Paperboy needs to be supported. I appreciate you, bro. Mafioso, let's like that comment. Shout out to him.
Fell in July, including gasoline, which is down nearly 10% over last year.
And another thing is, the communities that we have to stop normalizing, right? That it's okay for us to commit destruction and, theft and robbery and all. We gotta, that's not cool, because people have to live in those areas. I'm in a fortunate situation that I don't have to live around a super crime-filled area, you know what I mean? But I came from the hood, so I understand what it's like living like that. It's not a cool thing, when you got to be packing a blicky to go to the store all the time. That's ridiculous, or, one of your family members go to the store and somebody gets out of line with them because they want to be super gangster, and then now you got to get involved and all that. It's just crazy, bro. People should be able. This is why a lot of neighborhoods are becoming gentrified, and it's being allowed to happen. And people don't want a lot of. And I'm not saying every hood is like that, but some of them are bad. You know what I mean? People stealing cars. I remember I had a 1989 Camaro. Came out of work, my car's gone. You know what I'm saying? It's just what? You know, like that is it's just insane. Now, like even in Memphis, Tennessee, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee, you know, if you got a Charger, you know, good luck. If you're gonna keep it, like they robbing people for these cars, doing everything. Like, no, like people need to calm down with all this violence, unaliving each other. It's crazy. It's not good. It's not a cool thing. I don't support that.
Year, and propane, which is down 2.5% over last year as well. Egg prices fell once again in July and are down 20% since President Trump.
And then we got somebody IREC said maybe domestic police forces need to do their jobs. A lot of times, like even in Nashville, Tennessee, right? This is a tourism city. A lot of people coming in here for tourism and stuff. A lot of police officers have been decommissioned for trying to do their jobs. Like, you know, I know somebody, it's not my friend or nothing, but I know somebody who have been decommissioned because they were chasing a murderer. You know, in Nashville, Tennessee, a police officer, you know, was chasing a murderer and got decommissioned, you know, for doing that because he shouldn't have been chasing somebody. That's how they look at it. You know, so it's like people, but, you know, they get applauded if they stop you and give you a ticket. You know what I mean? Or if they're giving you a window tint violation or something. But then when the cops really are trying to get out here and do their job, then they get decommissioned. Like, that's a problem. That's not cool. So a lot of places, you know, have police officers that have their hands tied. And then, you know, you've got social media, you got different forces that have influenced a lot of these police chiefs to just tell people, hey, you know, obviously don't get wild, but don't do too much. You know what I mean? Get out there, police, but hey, don't do too much. And then, you know, people are scared to like really do their jobs out here. You know, I feel like, hey, if there is a bad area, in a bad neighborhood, police at times, you know, because we do have qualified immunity, right? So police officers get out here and they act crazy. They do whatever they want to do, you know, and there's no real repercussions for them because they can't be sued or held liable, you know, in civil courts for different things. So, you know, with qualified immunity, police officers sometimes, like we see on TikTok, you see on Twitter, Instagram, you know, they go too far, you know, and unfortunately you have some police that go so far that it restricts all of police. And I don't feel like all police is bad. You know what I mean? You've got some bad police and you got some good police. There are good police officers out there that do want to police, you know, the neighborhoods and make sure the neighborhoods are safe. You know, I think those people need to be able to do their jobs. But it's like if you're a police chief or you're the mayor, you know, and you're trying to, you know, divvy things down to the police chief so that he can, you know, figure things out. You know, it's just like, how do you really police things by keeping the public safe, but also maintaining police powers that they could do what they need to do? I personally believe that police should be able to do their jobs. I paid for my house. You know what I mean? Like, I am buying my house. You know what I mean? It ain't paid for. I got a mortgage. You know, and I put a lot of money down on this house, 20% on this house. You know, so I don't want my area being overrun by thugs. It is what it is. Like, people can get mad all day long. You know, a lot of people, a lot of liberals feel like these thugs should be out here controlling everything. No. Get mad all you want. I don't think that shit how it be. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes I want to listen to some music, got the thug life in it. But I don't want these people selling rocks by my house. You know what I mean? So police need to be able to do their jobs. Now, in D.C., they have a big problem with people being robbed. You know what I mean? And, you know, and mugged. You know what I mean? Like, they call it mugging. But people being robbed. Police need to be, off the leash to do their job. And sometimes, remember when, I was going to say Rahm Emanuel, but he was corrupt, Chicago. Remember when, and they did the stop and frisk in New York. Mayor Giuliani, I think that's what his name was, Giuliani, right? Giuliani did the stop and frisk. When I first looked at stop and frisk, I'm like, yo, stop and frisk is crazy. But the, crime dropped dramatically when Giuliani took over. We ain't about to act like it didn't. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like we need to always have a stop and frisk But, you know, sometimes these mayors and these governors need to, like, allow police to do their jobs. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't know. Y'all tell me what y'all think down in the comment section below. That's just my opinion on it. If DC is that bad, they have to do something. You know, if the local police can't get it together, you're the president of the United States, dog. And around the corner, it's crazy. How are you going to be looked at if you can't even control your block and you expected to control the whole country? You know what I mean? And have other countries look at you and not like, no, like, hey, if y'all can't control it, the federal government get involved. We deploying the National Guard doing what we got to do. I ain't mad at it. Lamar Ettington with the $5 donation said, I think whenever a government official of any kind pushes anything slightly pro-criminal, it should trigger extensive federal investigation into money. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, like, I feel like people deserve to be safe. And not everybody wants to be a thug. You know what I'm saying? People, man, I remember living in the hood. Like, I'm from Kinsman, Cleveland, Ohio, the gutter. Like, that, the real, like, craziness. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm from. You know, and there are people there that, you know, yeah, you got to be tough or whatever. But some people just want to live a regular life. They don't want, you know, unfortunate circumstances. They're born into a situation where they live around that. You know, and they got to, hey, it's either fight or flight. You know, and you ain't about to run. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to do what you got to do. You know, but some people, they just want to go to school, live their life. They don't want to be dealing with this. And you got these people on the block controlling the block. Acting crazy. Your mom goes into a corner store. They want to get smart with her. You know what I mean? Or, you know, super flirting with her and getting all crazy with her. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you a kid, what you gonna do? Or you a teenager, or you know what I mean? What you gonna do? You gonna go up there and you gonna cause wreck. You know what I mean? Like, no, you ain't about to be disrespecting my mom, bro. Like, I don't know how many people I got into it with over that. You not about to disrespect my mom. We fighting until it's over. You know, but people don't, you know, some people, they are, unfortunately, you in a situation like that. People just want to live their life, you know, and these thugs out here acting crazy. You know, so, hey, if he can police it, let him do what he got to do.
Took office. Shelter inflation, the largest contributor to overall inflation, is at its lowest level since October of 2021. Wage growth for American workers is beating inflation once again. As inflation declines, this administration continues to be wholeheartedly committed to putting more money back into the American people's pockets. American real wages are up 1.3% over last year and have increased each month since President Trump took office. And small business optimism, according to this morning's report, has also reached a 5-month high. Ignore the panicans and trust in President Trump. That is our motto here at the White House. The America First economic agenda is working. On another matter, yesterday, President Trump took bold action to finally restore law and order right here in our nation's capital. The president declared a crime emergency in the District of Columbia, federalized the D.C. Police Department, and mobilized the D.C. National Guard to end violent crime in our nation's capital. As part of the president's massive law enforcement surge, last night, approximately 850 officers and agents were surged across the city. They made a total of 23 arrests, including multiple other contacts. Last night, these arrests consisted of homicide, firearms offenses, possession.
I did see there's like a bunch of posts about this on like social media, what's going on, you know what I mean, about like, like of the arrests and stuff like that. So, you know, it's very interesting. Like they not playing with these people. You know what I mean? Like, get your life together, get a job. But, you know, and this is not gonna sound good, right? Sometimes, like, you live in a place, ain't no jobs. What you gonna do? Work at a grocery store or something? You know what I'm saying? Ain't no real jobs. You got bills, you got kids, you know what I'm saying? So some people getting out here and they getting how they live. You know, unfortunately, some people are in a situation like that. You know, and because they've done away with, you know, like when COVID hit, they did away with a lot of mom and pop stores. A lot of them couldn't survive, you know. So obviously big retailers like Walmart, Target, stuff like that is going to survive. But like a lot of small companies that hired a lot of people, you know, or you know, a bunch of small companies that hired people, you know, they went out of business and they went under, you know. So that took away like a lot of jobs from different neighborhoods. You know, so it's like, you know, you got to go to school, you got to do that, which good. Like, go to school. I went to school, I got a career and all of that. It took time, you know, but in the interim, people got to make money, you know, and unfortunately, if it ain't no jobs, people gonna find ways to get money. It's just what it is. You know what I mean? So, like, everything needs to change across the board. But sometimes you can have all the jobs in the world and people don't want to work. They would rather do crime. You know, then the education system is in play, and you got to ask, like, are people properly educated? A lot of people that are committing crime, they are operating on a low level IQ. They know what's going on, but they don't understand like ways of getting themselves out of this problem. You know what I mean? Of poverty. And so they commit the crimes. I'm not saying that's right, but there's other sides to it. You know what I'm saying? But as far as everything else, hey, deploy the National Guard, lock these people up. If they out there terrorizing the community, dog, it is what it is.
With intent to distribute narcotics, fare evasion, lewd acts, stalking, possession of a high-capacity magazine, fleeing to elude in a vehicle, no permits, driving under the influence, reckless driving, and a bench warrant. A total of 6 illegal handguns were seized off of District of Columbia streets as part of last night's effort. This is only the beginning. Over the course of the next month, the Trump administration will relentlessly pursue and arrest every violent criminal in the district who breaks the law, undermines public safety.
All right, so Nameless is a black guy, right? He said, I'm black and I'm from the hood. Got out by busting my A word out. You know what I'm saying? He said, I'm just joking. He said, I got out by busting my, you know what I mean? And increasing my market value. Black people really need to wake up and get with the program or get further left behind. You got to do things like, and it's just not, you know, black or white thing. It's just like the market now. You know what I mean? Like maybe you need to do something that's different than everybody else. Like maybe you do need to learn another language. Maybe be bilingual. You know, maybe you do need to look at different trades. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, going to school for, you know, like a criminal justice degree or something, like, is that really going to make you some money? Maybe go into law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe, you know what I mean? Like, figure out, maybe become an electrician. Maybe learn how to build houses. You know what I mean? Maybe go in for business and create your own, you know, it's different things you can do. You know what I mean? You don't always have to, but it depends on the person, what they are willing to do. But then it's the peer pressures. And I'm not saying fall to the peer pressures, but I understand a lot of people are not as strong as you or me to where I seen this is not the life I want to live. I do not want to be on the block with a blick all the time. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen crazy stuff happen. I'm from Kinsman, Cleveland, Ohio. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to live like that. I want to go to school, get this career popping, you know, and take care of my family. That's all I care about. You know, some people may not have the drive to do it, you know, unfortunately, and they turn to crime. And then you may have the drive to do it, and you born in a place that's messed up. You know what I mean? And then now you kind of like, you putting crazy, you know what I mean? Like, you got to survive. You got to figure out a proper way to survive until you can get out. It's crazy, bro.
Safety and endangers law-abiding Americans. President Trump will not be deterred by soft-on-crime Democrats and media activists who refuse to acknowledge this rampant violence on our streets. He is going to make our nation's capital the most beautiful and safe city on earth, just as he promised on the campaign trail. Staying on the topic of public safety, the Trump administration continues to shatter records on border security. According to brand new numbers released this morning from Customs and Border Patrol, illegal crossings have fallen to all-time lows once again. Here were the records set in July. Again, these numbers were released this morning. The lowest monthly nationwide encounters ever, down nearly 90% from the monthly average under the Biden administration. The lowest monthly Border Patrol apprehensions nationwide ever.
Shout out to Karoline Leavitt. We about to go to the conservative perspective. Shout out to them. They ended up posting me.
What the chain of command is now?
on a different video, so shout out to him. But we're gonna react to this. So it's Joe Scarborough confronts black liberal MSNBC host on crying racism over Trump DC crime crackdown. Let's listen to this.
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor now you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
I think it's really important to be clear about what is going on here, and a relatively small crime problem is being used for specific authoritarian purposes that we know and understand. So let's be
relatively small crime problem. I bet this guy would not live around that block where all of the crime is happening. I bet he wouldn't. Interesting.
Clear about DC does have one really big crime problem, which was the January 6th insurrection incited by the current president of the United States. And his first act in coming back was pardoning all the people who tried to overturn constitutional republic order in Washington, D.C. When I go to D.C., I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid of losing my vote.
He's one of the few. One of the big things that I hear about like DC is the crime problem, and people are worried about being like robbed. Like that is a reality. So he's trying to paint it like nothing's wrong. There's no real crime there. There's no problems. And Trump is just picking on people. This is how this guy is trying to paint it. What do y'all think?
I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid that my children's freedom to breathe will be stolen in a world where climate change policy is non-existent.
What? What is he talking about? Does he not know like the earth has like a natural exhaust to like get rid of stuff? Like what, you know, they push this climate change, these liberals, because they want to continue to put people in office and continue to expand the branch of government and to continue to tax you. Like, hey, like going to the DMV and you got to pay like, you know, $90 a year just to drive your car. You know what I mean? Like, it's just insane for tags and, you know, all of this stuff. Like, they just want like more and more regulation on everything. Some people like all the regulations, some people don't. You know what I mean? All this climate change and all of that. Like the earth, like you really think how many billions of people isn't on Earth? How many? Hold on, let me see. Let's see. Let's do this. 8.1 billion people on Earth. Do y'all understand how big Earth is? Have y'all traveled to like Europe? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or going to like Asia or anything. Earth is massive. So you really think these people are really making the earth hot? You know what I mean? I don't know. I think they're trying to continue to push more propaganda to get more people in office and to continue to overtax us. They want every state like California. No.
I'm afraid that the future of middle-class people will be stolen by the very things you were talking about, cutting the safety net, cutting Medicaid, cutting rural hospitals.
Right.
So there is carjacking.
And of course, there is a carjacking. No, but you got to worry about two things. You got to worry about two things at the same time.
My point.
So let's talk about DC residents.
These people believe the earth is flat.
For a second, because these headlines, you know, and I was a resident of DC for over 20 years. I've lived in all but 3 DC wards, okay? These headlines are different from when I first came to the city. 13-year-old girl, 13, sentenced to 7 years for 2023 beating death of a DC.
To be the glory said, check out all the barren land we have right here in the USA. It's so much land here that's unoccupied. It's insane. Like, people don't realize how massive the oceans are. You know what I mean? And just how long it takes to actually cross one. Like, by boat. You know what I mean? Like, it just, even by airplane, like, the oceans are insanely massive. They're so massive, you don't even go straight across the ocean. You got to go around. You know what I mean? Like when you're flying, so you're closer to the land. But it's insane, you know, how big this earth is. And they think a couple little things are causing major hurt on the earth. And then you start finding out who's behind all this Greenpeace stuff, and you're like, okay, it makes sense.
D.C. man, teen sentenced in killing of Lyft driver who came to U.S. seeking safety. This was a guy who was a U.S. military interpreter who was shot and killed in an attempted carjacking, again, by a 16-year-old. Now, juveniles fall under you, and the D.C. Attorney General, Jeanine Pirro, D.C. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, has focused in on this inability that she says she has to prosecute juveniles. The law allows people up to the age of 24 years old to potentially have more lenient sentences from judges. Is that working for people in D.C.?
Boy. So we got to talk about more truth serum coming out of the mainstream liberal media, right? It is seeping through here and there when it comes to this issue of crime in D.C. and the crime crackdown that President Trump has issued on D.C., which honestly should extend across the country to major liberal cities, right? All these major liberal cities need a crime crackdown. I'm hoping that President Trump makes an example out of D.C. in terms of this is how you govern, right? This is how you stop the violence and the chaos, because it doesn't matter how much Democrats and the liberal media try to gaslight us on crime in D.C. and what is happening. We all know the truth, okay? And you have individuals that are willing to go on television and to speak the truth about what is actually happening. Like, for example, the head of the police union in D.C., who is welcoming President Trump taking over and helping crack down on crime. Take a look.
Violent crime continues in D.C. Last night, a man was shot and killed in Logan's Circle in Washington, D.C.
Hey, Democrats, y'all see this?
Meanwhile, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is firing back at Donald Trump for sending in the troops.
I believe that the president's view of D.C. is shaped by his COVID era experience during his first term. It is also true that we experienced a crime spike post-COVID, but we worked quickly to put laws in place and tactics that got violent offenders off our streets and gave our police officers more tools, which is why we have seen a huge decrease in crime.
A huge decrease in crime. Let's bring in the chair of the D.C. Police Union, Gregory Pemberton, and he joins us this morning. Gregory, great to have you here. I guess my first question is, why do you support the president's takeover?
Ashley, thanks for having me.
Sure.
We completely agree with the president here that crime in the district is out of control and something needs to be done about it. This concept that crime is down is really an old trope. They're using statistics in a way that makes it appear that crime is going down, but our rank and file officers know that we're going call to call for armed carjacking, stabbings, robberies, shootings, homicides, and the crime isn't going anywhere. And so we welcome the assistance, and whether that's federal agents or the National Guard, we'll use it. We'll do whatever we can to get bad guys off the streets and try to keep citizens of the district safe. Our concern here is that this is a temporary measure. This is only going to last for 30 days, and then the feds and the National Guard will be on their way.
Look at all the YNs taking everything up in here.
And we'll be left holding the bag. Our agency right now is an authorized strength of 4,000 sworn officers, and we're currently sitting at 3,180 with more than 800 vacancies for the position of sworn police officer. And that's the main reason why we can't keep these streets safe. The department relies on 2 million hours of overtime every year to try to close this gap. So the underlying issues of the laws that have been passed by the D.C. Council, we hope that this 30 days gives some insight from the feds to see exactly how terrible these laws are and how they've destroyed the police department so that we can work to get those things corrected.
You know, D.C. Police Commander Michael Pulliam is under investigation for allegedly changing crime statistics to make it appear that violent crime has fallen considerably. So I guess the question is, has crime fallen or not? And based on what you just told us, if there's a crime has not fallen.
I don't think so, and that's a very interesting aspect of the story that doesn't seem to be reported, is that they have a command staff official who's alleged to have been going into police databases and changing felonies to misdemeanors to try to keep these crime numbers down.
Changing felonies to misdemeanors to try to keep the crime numbers down. Interesting.
Listen, I know Commander Pulliam, and he's a stand-up guy. What I suspect is that this is a pattern of practice, and this is something that's been ordered from the top to make sure the commanders are managing the crime stats to make it appear the crime is lower than it is, which is a disservice to the city, it's a disservice to the officers, and above all, it's a disservice to the victims of these crimes when we're not taking the proper police reports and investigating them and advocating for those proper resources.
Yeah, so once again, as the mainstream little media is boo-hoo-wilding crying, conspiracy! It's a right-wing conspiracy that crime is up, that crime is out of control in D.C. Well, not really, because the crime statistics are BS, right? They are manipulated by these little cities in order to make it look like crime is going down when it's really not, okay? I mean, does anybody really actually believe these crime statistics? Like, the one crime statistic that is really hard to manipulate, homicides, because, again, you talk about actual dead bodies. Yeah, D.C., not doing well, right? Not doing well at all, okay? That's the one statistic that they can't say is down, because that one is the one that is the hardest to manipulate. So, with that being said, people who actually live in D.C., okay, even the people who are on television telling you with a straight face that crime is down, D.C. is safe, I don't feel in danger. Apparently behind closed doors, they're saying things differently. And that's what Joe Scarborough, who still claims to be a conservative, even though he's not a Republican anymore, he still claims to be conservative, even though I'm not sure what's conservative about him. He dropped a little bit of truth on his network, basically saying that, yeah, I have people who on television, on Twitter, on X, wherever, they are saying that they disagree with what the president's doing, but behind closed doors, they agree with what the president is doing. Take a look.
This is a fascinating story because so many people have been calling me over the past couple of days going, you know, like Washington should have gotten involved years ago. This place is dangerous. It's a mess. It's a wreck and whatever. And then they'll go on Twitter, go, this is the worst outrage of all time, the shocking, which I understand. It is people need to express their concerns about Donald Trump going too far. We saw what happened back in 2020 with the National Guard. Certainly can't have any repeat of that. Don't want the federalization of the entire city. But man, I don't care what the crime statistics say. Crime has been a problem in this city for the 32 years I've been living inside and outside of the city. It's just, you know, even now, Meek and I, we're talking to somebody who lives in the city. These are all Democrats who said, you know, our friends won't walk more than 3 blocks in D.C. at night without feeling good. Man, it's door to door. I mean, I get one of those bikes, you know me. I love riding the bikes around. I ride around and I go door to door. I don't slow down. It's very dangerous there. Glad the crime rates are going down, but there is no sense of security for people who've been living in that city for 30 years. And again, my beef going back to my days in Congress always was, well, why isn't Congress doing more? I mean, they're really letting the nation's capital be guided by the lunacy of Marion Barry and some people on the city council that have some crazy ideas about.
What do y'all think about this? Somebody said it's a serious thing. Look up Canary and Coal Mine. This could happen. Somebody said the Washington D.C. homicide rate has decreased over 150%. Concept the King said, I guarantee you won't read this. I mean, I did. Pat Yeager said, send your kids to the park tonight and see if they come back. Yo, hey. DC wild, bro. Somebody said, actually, I just came back from walking my dog in the park.
You know, stopping the police from doing their jobs. But it's the nation's capital. So I think Congress and the president should have stepped in 30 years.
Somebody said, foundational Black American S said, you want to handle crime and poverty, Black American reparations now. Even if you give some of these people money, they still gonna tear up stuff. We gotta keep it real, dog. Like, they still gonna tear up. I mean, people getting welfare, Section 8, they still tearing stuff up. You know, so you give them more money, they just gonna buy a nice car, drive it to the Section 8 house, and tear up the hood more. Like, this was gonna happen.
I will just go back to the fact that, you know, the people that are cheering this on privately are not like right-wing Republicans. They're not MAGA people. A lot of our friends are in the media, and also Democrats that worked on Joe Biden's campaign, that worked on other campaigns. They're just saying, yeah, I'd like to feel...
I mean, that's true. Somebody said money doesn't fix lack of class. Money won't fix a lack of class. I mean, it's true. Some people just like living like that.
Safe walking around this city. If the federal government can be a positive partner in keeping the streets safe, well, again,
foundational Black American asset, not the same, bro. I feel you though. I mean, like, you even seen it when people, what was that scam thing? Like, people, it was around like COVID, where people were like saying that they had a company and they hired so many employees and they start getting all of that money, you know, that people are starting to get convicted for now, or arrested for now. And like, people just took that money and bought like nice cars. They didn't like really start businesses. They didn't do anything like that. They just bought nice cars, bought expensive Louis bags, $850 Louis Vuitton belts. You know what I'm saying? Some Balenciaga shoes. And still in the same situation. Yeah, PPP loans. You know, still in the same situation. So even if the government was to give them money, they do the same thing. You know, they're going to buy some Chargers. You know what I'm saying? Some Dodge Chargers, some Hellcats, some Scat Packs, some Challengers, a Trail Hawk. That's what they going to do, man. Some Gucci bags, you know?
Forming a partnership with the D.C. police and not taking over, then at least the people I've spoken with that live in D.C. day in, day out, see this as a positive step.
Huh. Interesting. Fascinating. So we have a situation where the same people who are boo-hoo-winding crying on television about how this is so bad, this is so terrible, that also live in D.C. behind closed doors, they're cheering this on. They're happy that the president is doing this. Again,
Yeah, it's crazy. Let's do this.
I think we need a ballroom, and that's happening. It's going to be a beautiful ballroom. This is really a lot of people, most I've ever seen in this room. And we're here for a very serious purpose, Something's out of control, but we're going to put it in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States. I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening. They've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. And you people are victims of it, too. You know, you're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get mugged and raped and shot and killed. And you all know people and friends of yours that happened. And so you can be anything you want, but you want to have safety in the streets. You want to be able to leave your apartment or your house where you live and feel safe and go into a store to buy a newspaper or buy something. And you don't have that now. The murder rate in Washington today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City, some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth, much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past.
So let me show you, because we're watching CNN right now. CNN is trying to show you these statistics, but let me give you a little bit of insight on why this is wrong. Because they're saying that from 2023 to 2024, 2024 to 2025, first of all, we're not even done with the fiscal year 2025. That's number one. Number two, DC experienced a downward spiral in crime because a lot of people wasn't outside during the pandemic. So they're comparing it to years that then spiked up because the crime jumped up once people were able to get outside in 2020.
And I kind of want to show what Google's saying about this, but you know, they I don't know. I think they're liberal too. Shout out to Google.
Agree, because everybody was locked down 2021, 2022, right? So the crime jumped up and then it started to trend downwards towards what it was prior to the pandemic, right? But the reality is that it's still too high. It's way too high, and people are not being honest. And
I see it's kind of trending down though. It says Washington total violent crime for 2024 in the District of Columbia is down 35% from 2023, and it is lowest has been in over 30 years, according to data collected by Metropolitan Police Department and announced by United States Attorney Matthew M. Graves. A breakdown of the data is available. So that was from 2023 to 2024. Let's see, 2024 to 2025. It says in Washington, D.C., crime statistics for the first half of 2025 show a decrease in most major offenses compared to the same period in 2024. Homicides, motor vehicle thefts, burglaries, and larcenies have all declined. Specifically, homicides in the first half of the year are significantly lower than in 2024 and are below pre-pandemic levels. It says here's a more detailed breakdown. Homicides, a 34% decrease compared to 2023 through July, with a 12% drop in the first half of 2025. Violent crime overall, violent crime is trending downward, with 2024's rate being the second lowest since 1966. Motor vehicle theft, there was 25% decrease in motor vehicle thefts in the first half of 2025 compared to the first half of 2024. Yeah, but what was the rates? You know what I'm saying? Like, how many vehicles were stolen? How many? Like, this is what they're not telling. I'm just looking at what Google is putting out here, but they're not like really telling you. You know, they're just saying like it's down by 12%. But how many vehicles were stolen? How many homicides were there? You know, how many violent crimes did we have? You know?
This is the dishonesty that comes along.
And then the guy that we watched the video earlier, he said that they're trying to reduce some of the crime statistics by, instead of giving people felonies, they're giving them misdemeanors now to make it look better. But still, if you're the president of the United States and they are having a violent crime, homicides, all of that still going on, like, you got to do something to try to protect it. Now, you know, the DC, could he have told the police, give them more like policing powers? So say, hey, or, you know, talk to the mayors or whatever and try to give them more policing powers, you know, and try to restrict them a little bit less to bring down crime even more. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But 0% is the goal in my mind. If they got 30% crime, like, hey, the White House is around here, dog. We need 0% up in here. Like, bro, I went to the Netherlands like 3 weeks ago. And what was it? 4 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago. I went to the Netherlands. And like, they had like almost no crime, dog. You could be walking around at night. You could have your money in your hand, counting it. Like, they leave you alone. Like, try doing that in DC. You know what I mean? Or any major metropolitan area. And you're like, no, bro. Like, it shouldn't be having no crimes. I don't care. Thug life. If you could drive the crime down, go ahead, Trump. I'm with you.
Along with looking at CNN, because they won't really give you the real insight. The reality is this, is that DC should be the safest city in America.
That's how I look at it too. Like just how Anton Daniels just said, DC should be the safest city in America. You right around the White House, dog.
If you've ever visited Washington, D.C., it's insane because right outside of the gate of the White House, you see chaos. First time I ever visited the White House before I ever went to the White House, but the first time that I ever visited, and I just was outside of the fence, and you can see that sniper that's walking across the roof, right? Outside of it, lunatics, liberal lunatics, protests, tent city. It is homelessness and tent city everywhere.
How many times have we, I mean, this is not just like with a DC, right? But like just on TikTok, Instagram, how many times you see people shoplifting, robbing people, you know what I'm saying? Like drive-bys, you're seeing all of this crazy stuff going on online on social media. Social media does amplify things, you know, because back in the 90s, you didn't have social media. So things were going on. Yeah, you had the cop TV show. You know what I mean? But things were going on. You just didn't see it like you see it now because social media can amplify things. You could take one situation, share it on multiple different platforms, and then the views go crazy, and it seems like everything is like that. You know what I mean? But, you know, I think as a whole, crime needs to go down in America. Something needs to happen.
Right down the street, a block away from the White House, and any dignitary or person that will be visiting there, I would be like, wait a minute.
Somebody says stock ammo. Okay, well, there's some like states that have super restrictive, you know, licenses for stuff like that. You know, and some of them don't even believe in like self-defense. Some of these cities and states, they don't even believe in self-defense. I remember I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. That was a long time. Cleveland, Ohio didn't believe in self-defense. I got up out of there. You know, so it's like I'm not about to know. Like that's why I love Nashville, Tennessee. I'm legally licensed to carry. I can do all of that. You know what I'm saying? And I very rarely go to any place to where I can't carry. But some of these places that are crime ridden have very stringent or like difficult, you know, licenses to get when it comes to Blix and stuff like that. You know, and these are democratically controlled places. You know, and they just want crime to run rampant. I don't know why it is, but like when you go to a Republican state, they not playing. You know, you come to Tennessee acting crazy, Nashville and act crazy if you want to, and then something gonna happen to you. You know what I mean? Like it's just because you don't know who's carrying here, because so many people can carry. We got really laxed laws with that. Like even Florida, mess up in Florida, they make their laws to where it's the citizens can protect themselves. You know, you go to Chicago, it's a different story. You know, it's difficult to be able to protect yourself there. You know, even Washington, D.C. out here is difficult to protect yourself there. So, but that happens when you have laws that are favor criminals, really. Like law-abiding citizens you're punishing and trying to make them not be able to carry. Like, how does that make sense? You know, and I don't understand why anybody would want to live in places like that. If I can't protect myself, I don't need to be in your state. You know what I mean? Or if you're making it difficult for me to do it, I don't need to be in your state.
This is the place where the president sleeps every night, and this is what it looks like? It is. It's absolutely insane. But let's go back to Trump's press conference.
5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty.
Now, some of these that he's saying, I don't believe. I don't believe everything he's saying here. And this is just me being honest. Because what he's saying is contradicting like what it says. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like crime has been down. You know, it's not like super crazy like he's saying, but it's still crime and going down. You know what I mean? Go ahead and fix that.
Criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. Yeah, just like we did on our southern border.
He's not, I don't, you know, shout out to Trump. I'm Republican and all that, but I don't agree with what he's saying right here, like about the crime. Like I don't believe that. Like, you know, just what I've been looking at, I don't believe that. But any crime is too much. We put that out there. You know what I mean?
Border. Nobody comes to our southern border anymore. 3 months in a row, we had zero. I don't know if that's right, but the people that do the work, it's a very liberal group of people, actually. They actually said zero for the last 3 months. Nobody thought a thing like that was possible. And, you know, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad is, we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned.
Red Rocket said, didn't a police chief get knocked for cooking the crime statistics, or am I just imagining things? I'm looking that up now.
All double and triple what they are. So do you want to live in places like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the people in this room, if you wrote correctly, you'd see, look at the kind of numbers we have. D.C., 41 per 100,000, number one.
See, what Trump is doing is he's doing the 41 by 100,000, right? What Google and all of these other sites are doing is just giving percents and saying, well, you know, the crime is down such and such percent, but they're not giving the, like, what he's saying.
That we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. That where you want to live?
So it said the police chief's facts are wrong, right? So it says D.C. Attorney General Police Union Chief's facts are wrong on city crime. D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab on Tuesday pushed back on claims by the city's police union head, saying his facts are wrong when it comes to crime in the nation's capital. Crime in the district is out of control and something needs to be done about it. The concept that crime is down is really an old trope. Greg Pemberton, chair of the D.C. Police Union, said in a Tuesday appearance on Fox News Network. It says, our rank and file officers know that we're going call to call for armed carjacking, stabbings, robberies, shootings, homicides, and the crime isn't going anywhere. And so he said, so we welcome the assistance, and whether that's federal agents or the National Guard, we'll use them, he added later. In response to Pemberton's comments, Schwab told CNN Casey Hunt on her show The Arena that with due respect to Mr. Pemberton, I think his facts are wrong. I think his talking points are wrong. We know that's happening in our city. We have more work to do, but you know what I mean? Like, this is CNN, though. CNN is always going to be opposite. It says, we know what's happening in our city. We have more work to do. We need to work together to reduce the crime to a zero number, but we are going in the right direction under local control, local policies, and local leadership, and we need to stay the course, Schwab added. So they don't want the federal government getting involved. Trump announced Monday he was taking federal control of D.C.'s police department and deploying the National Guard in the city in an attempt to fight crime. The dangerous part about what Trump is doing, right, and this is me being 100%, when you start deploying the federal government to take over local municipalities, you know, that is like an overreach of the federal government if it's not warranted. Now, if he can show crime statistics showing that crime is just out of control and he's doing that, okay. But I am very weary of federal government. This is more than... You know what I mean? A big reason why I'm Republican. I don't believe in federal overreach. You know, so if he's deploying the National Guard or taking over the federal police, pushing the federal agencies to take over local police municipalities, and there's no just cause for him to do it, and it's warrantless, that is a big, major issue in my eyes. You know what I mean? I can rock with Trump all day long, but that's a problem. And for him to be a Republican, you know, you don't want bigger government. You know, especially if crime is moving, if it's getting lower by the years, you know, it's kind of like you kind of do want to stay the course. But if he feels like he can speed it up, you know, and lowering crime because he feels like the police isn't doing an adequate job of doing it, it creates another discussion. But as far as like this situation, if I'm looking at the crime stats and the crime reports, it looks like crime is going down. It's not going up. You know what I'm saying? So even if he's sitting up here on a podium, we can all support him, we voted for him, whatever. Like, we have to be real. What he's saying is not lining up with what the reports are saying. Crime is going down, you know? So I don't know how he's going to, like, really justify this because this opens up a can of worms for him. Because, you know, people can look at this as like, okay, well, the Epstein files, you said you were going to release, you didn't do that. You know, you said you're going to do this, and this isn't happening, this isn't happening, that's not happening. And now you're trying to move towards pushing, you know, the federal government on a local municipality when it's not warranted to deflect off of other things that's going on with the administration. And you're starting to see people talk about that. Well, there's things that was going wrong, and Pam Bondi said she was going to do this, and Trump said he was going to release this, and, you know, the Martin Luther King files, the JFK files, and Epstein files, all this was going to happen, and then now they're trying to switch topics on D.C., and this is how they're moving, you know, and then now he's going to get a lot of pushback, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know, y'all tell me what y'all think down in the comment section below, but if he could substantiate his claims, then he would have no problem. But, you know, like, the Democrats are going to find a way to use this against him. And, you know, they will use anything. I'm not sure if he can even be impeached for this, you know, but they're going to look for anything and everything that's not correct, you know what I mean, or how he's moving. So, I don't know. Y'all tell me what y'all think.
The reporters of the world, juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had a recent indication.
Well, see, so Pepsi Warren, he's in the comment section. He said, whatever. And you know, you guys controlling stuff. I don't stop trolls unless you just get too crazy. Pepsi Warren said, whatever happened to smaller government? Like, I mean, I'm kind of with the smaller government aspect of it. Like, I think this is an overreach. I just said that.
There was a story about a man who was just left. He quit because he was.
But there's still crime, and I think America has a big crime problem. You know what I mean? I think we do. You know, they got to do something about it. But this could potentially be an overreach.
Has to do phony numbers on crime, and we're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. But he was asked by the city, I guess. We don't want to show the real numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down. And under Biden, it was a disaster. And nobody did anything about it. We're going to do.
Another thing that they like to do is they underreport crime. So they're doing two things. The first thing that they're doing is
my fiance with a $5 donation, he said the crimes are going down because the crimes are not being reported. Someone gets arrested, then gets released. But arrest is reported. So, like, my fiance, how I'm looking at it, I kind of think what's going on is what the guy was saying before. Like, people are being arrested, right? But the crimes are being lowered, right? So they're not being charged with, you know, the bad crime, you know, is what I think is happening. Or crimes are being reduced from federal offenses down to misdemeanor offenses. And that could fudge the numbers and make it look different, you know, like what the guy was saying earlier in a different video. So I think that could potentially be going down as well.
They're underreporting. So that if you look at places like Washington, D.C., Chicago, Los Angeles, for example, just to give you a broad example, Los Angeles, for example, they had a recent crime spree where one of the things that they did was they got LA street takeovers. It was doing burnouts. It was breaking into places right outside a crypto arena. They also started ransacking gas stations. They take every single thing that's inside of there. And because, the police officers don't show up until hours later, they also tell the owner, and they said, well, we can't do anything, so this is simple shoplifting. So do you just want to keep it moving and go about your day? They don't report it as a robbery. They don't report certain crimes. They ain't underreported. The second thing is because there is no police, a lot of people don't even call, or by the time that they actually get there, they downgrade it because they don't consider it violent crime because maybe nobody got hurt in the process. So they're reclassifying crimes and they're changing how it is that they designate things so that they can try to make the numbers look a little bit better and trying to say, well, crime is down statistically. It's not. It's actually up, bro.
Things about it like you wouldn't believe. It's time for dramatic action.
But, you know, shout out to Anton Daniels. He's saying crime's up. But he doesn't have statistics to say that crime is up. He's just saying that. And we know that he's a Republican. You know, but it's just, there has to be, like, the president is not getting this part. If you're deploying the National Guard, you have got to have concrete evidence that the crime is going up. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. So this all looks good. But you get on the podium and you're saying one thing, and then the statistics are saying something else. This is, you know, it's like, where do you go? Like, what do you believe at this point? You know what I mean? Like, because he does do that a lot. Like, he gets on the podium and he says things that's not true. A lot of politicians do that, you know, to get their way, you know, what they want to do. But I don't know. I don't know about this one, Trump. I don't know about this one. I'm for reducing crime. But I don't know about this one. I think this is like somebody saying, Kirk Royce said, all political theater. That's what I think right now.
We do the same thing over here. It's going to be a very safe city very soon. We're not looking to just take years, because a lot of people die in years. And we've got incredible people in this country, except we have to allow them to do their job. And that...
So... another thing that they talk about is the homeless, right? Because we heard Karoline Leavitt, she was talking about this. And so if they do all of this, they could start messing with the homeless people. Now, I'm not like a huge fan of like homeless people just setting up tents and stuff like that, making places look terrible. But this is Earth, right? You know what I mean? Like the government, I don't think should be able to control Earth. Right? Like, so if you don't have a place to live, you know, you shouldn't be able to be getting in trouble for not having a place to live and being removed and all of that craziness. You know, like we should have a society to where there should not be this much homelessness, or we should have, maybe they need to start bringing back wards. Because some people are just like in an unfortunate situation, they're homeless, lost their jobs, whatever. It happens. Some people are in a situation to where it could be mental health related and they don't know how to get proper help. You know what I'm saying? Somebody said, stop. This is a super chat. Stop paying reparations to Israel and Indians if you do not want to pay FBAs. Yo, these politicians are never going to pay, you know what I'm saying, black people reparations. It's never going to happen. They think the welfare and everything is reparations. It's not going to happen. We keep screaming it all day long. It's not going to happen.
We will deliver like nobody's ever delivered before. I actually think it's easy. You know, if you're competent, it's easy. If you're incompetent, it's impossible. But I'm very competent. Last week, my administration surged 500 federal agents into the district, including from the FBI, ATF, DEA, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Secret Service.
And don't get me wrong, somebody said this is what you voted for. I've got a lot what I voted for, right? We're getting like close to 0 border crossings. That's what I voted for, right? So, I mean, this is what they're dealing with in D.C. What I voted for, I got, right? I didn't want Zelensky to continue to get our money. He stopped them from getting our money. That's what I voted for. You know what I mean? So a lot of stuff I voted for, I got. And I think this president, even the Epstein files, I wanted released. I didn't get what I voted for with that. But I will say about 95% of everything that I wanted, he did. So a lot of it, there's a trifecta, right? And so we got control of the House, Senate, and Congress, right? He's done a lot of executive orders. Now it's up to the politicians to make things law. I think that's what's being, people are dragging their feet with that. But other than that, like, I think he's done a lot of things that I wanted him to do. Just right now, this is something that is a DC issue, to where some people are questioning his methodology of why he's deploying the National Guard, and on the surface, when you look at it, it's like, hey, crime is up, whatever, deploy him. But when you start digging into the statistics, it starts being something different than what he's saying, so he could still deploy the National Guard, but it's just going to make people wonder, why are you doing it now? If the local municipality has crime statistics going down, why are you sitting here deploying the National Guard? It doesn't make sense.
And the Department of...
The only thing that would make sense to me is if they looking at gentrify. You know what I mean? That's what, and some people are against gentrification. I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, because there's been, like, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. There's been a lot of areas that's been gentrified. And they're way better because of the gentrification. Brought a lot of different businesses, moved all the people who were committing all the crimes, stealing cars, robbing people, moved them out. You know what I mean? And then just put, like, stores and everything in there. Now, you don't want to see people get moved. You know what I mean? Like, from, where they're from and stuff like that. But still, like, you also don't want crime up in here.
Homeland Security. A lot of nations, they don't have anything like that. They got some police, and they're rough police. They don't have DEA, ATF, FBI, Park Police, U.S. Marshal Service, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security. They got some police, but they're rough police, and they do their job. They don't have crime.
And then you got people that just really don't know politics. They're just like, what happened with January 6th? And we literally just watched the whole Nancy Pelosi debacle. Like, where she was dragging her feet with different things. Like, we literally just watched that. What happened with January 6th? We already went over that.
We're not going to have crime either. They made dozens of arrests, and that's what starts to happen. Again,
I think it's a distraction from the Epstein files. I see a comment in here. B079 said distraction from Epstein's story. I think it is too. I think that's what it is. And you got Pam bro, everybody was wanting the removal of Pam Bondi because she hasn't done anything. The only thing she's done is prosecuted people who threw Molotov cocktails at Tesla dealerships. She has literally done nothing that she said she was going to do. But she's operating under the authority of the president. So she's going to do what he tells her to do. So, yeah, she was gung-ho about releasing the Epstein list. Right? She was gung-ho about it. Oh, I got to release the Epstein list, all that. But then who knows what happened behind the scenes to why it's not coming out now. There's a reason why it ain't coming out. You know what I'm saying? They know, we don't know. And so she stopped going after. And then you got Kash Patel comes out. FBI, the Epstein list is, you know what I'm saying, it's not what people think. It's a lot of this is a farce. And, we can't find anything wrong with what happened to Epstein. There was no conspiracy. Remember when Kash Patel came out and said all of that? But yet there's like a second or like a whole minute or something like that missing from the video footage. But well, there's always a minute missing from the video footage of every day. But then we're gonna show you guys the videos showing that there's a minute footage missing every day, and they never furnish the videos. So I think this is a cover up for the Epstein list. Let's clean up the streets, and people will care about that more than this Epstein list. That's what I think it is. I don't think we're gonna ever find out about what happened with Epstein until all of the players are no longer here. That's what I think.
And cashless bail. Watch what we do with that. Today, we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital.
But a lot of this is political theater, I believe. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to everybody. We've been live for a couple hours. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to keep you all day. You know, I got work tomorrow. Hopefully, you know what I mean? Everybody, we learned something, you know, but, you know, I'm torn on this, you know, because I hear what he's saying, but I see the statistics. It's different than what he's saying. You know, but at the same time, I'm not a proponent of crime. I know a lot of liberals feel like we should just let crime be. I'm not a proponent of crime, you know, and I feel like people should be living in safe areas, you know. So if he wants to make these areas safe, let him do it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm on edge. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to everybody. I see y'all in here. You know what I mean? Appreciate everybody for hitting the likes. All of that, you know, everybody for super chatting. Mafiaso, shout out to you for the super chat. I appreciate that. But I'm out. Come rate, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think about that. Peace.